So obviously you guys seem to like my last AFL tips and predictions video I did, even though it technically was like a highly invalid video because like 3 days after I posted it, the AFL just came out and decided to, well, cancel 2 of the games, which basically meant that half the tips that I did in that video literally meant nothing because those games didn't even go ahead. But we are, of course, very fortunate that 2 of the games did go ahead, and for the most part, again, there was definitely some good things to be seen there. So I thought let's go on the channel again and actually do a tips and predictions video now for round 1 and talk about, of course, all the games we have here. Hope as well that some of these games don't get delayed and of course changed, postponed, cancelled, whatever it might be. Pray for the best on that. Again, before we do get into it though, I would just like to say there are some things that I need to talk about. Again, there's still a decent amount of you guys who watch these videos who are not yet subscribed to the channel. So if you could do me a massive favor and leave a like on this video to let me know you enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel for all latest AFL content and news. And again, the other thing I wanted to mention is I noticed that like the first, a fair few of the games that I've got coming up, I actually do have the home team winning, and I really did realize that. But again, don't be alarmed. I'm not just tipping the home team for everyone. Of course, there are going to be some upsets that I think are generally going to happen. So you don't have to come into the comments down below and threaten my whole family tree again. I'm telling you right now, I feel like I've calculated a pretty good list here. So we'll of course get straight into it with the first game, which is Richmond versus Carlton. And this shouldn't be that much of a no-brainer. As a massive Richmond fan, I think if Carlton truly want to be taken seriously in this 2025 AFL season, they should come out and absolutely smack the Tigers here. Again, I know that they've got a ton of injuries. 2 key players like Charlie Curnow, and Richmond are probably going to be debuting every single player and their dad in this game. But again, Carlton should come out and they should beat them, you know, quite convincingly, especially if they want to be taken seriously, because the last 2 games they've played against the Tigers, they have not done well. Again, in 2023, the Tigers actually drew with the Carlton Football Club, and in 2024, the Blues got extremely lucky with, I believe, at like halfway through the 3rd quarter, the Tigers were up by like 15, 20 points and were playing much better football. But of course, they had, I think, 2 players go down with injuries. One, I think, was an ACL. I think, if I remember right, both the injured players were key defenders. So basically, yeah, I think it was Gibcus and maybe Young. Basically, the Tigers had no one to go up against Curnow and Mackay, and they were able to win. But up until that point, they were looking not so good, and it kind of ended up resembling their season because, yeah, they didn't end up living up to expectations, and they didn't have a good season for the most part. So they got to absolutely put that to bed here. This Richmond team is tipped to finish last, and even some of the players that dominated against Carlton last year, like Gibcus, they won't be playing in this game. So there's no excuse for, you know, Carlton not to go out there right now and smack Richmond up and do it quite convincingly. So I do have them, of course, winning. You've also got Hawthorn versus Essendon, and God, what I saw from Hawthorn at, you know, Sydney was pretty insane. Again, I know that the Hawks, they even still didn't even have their best team out there. Cal Shadir and Mitch Lewis, you could tell they were highly missing those key forward options, and they were still able to beat the grand finalist team decently well in Sydney. I just think, again, they should get the win here. Essendon, it's going to be really interesting, though, to see in this game where they're going to go this season, because they don't want to get smacked, and I don't think they will. I think this will be a decent contest. For Hawthorn, God, they look good. They should win this game quite convincingly. Again, convincingly, I should say. Again, we've also got Geelong versus Fremantle. This one is at GMHBA, I believe. And Fremantle, realistically, they should be absolutely coming out here and, you know, being very competitive against Geelong. They have built an absolutely very good team right now. Shea Bolton should come in and be very good for them. Again, I do think Geelong are going to win, but I think this could be one of the games of the round. I think a lot of people think Geelong will win just because of how good they are at GMHBA. But I wouldn't be surprised if Fremantle actually shocked some and came out with the win here. Again, I'm not bold enough to say that, and I still think Geelong will win. But I think that will be an interesting one. And, Fremantle definitely have to prove that they're going to rise up on this AFL ladder. And I think they will do that against the Cats at GMHBA. Again, we've got Sydney versus Brisbane at the SCG. Yeah, I mean, weirdly enough, I actually think Brisbane are going to come away with this game and start the Swans 0-2. I just think even though Brisbane are going to be missing, of course, that number one key forward option for the most part of the season with no Joe Danaher now, I still believe that Brisbane are going to get the win here against the Sydney Swans. Again, this is at the SCG, so the Swans play back-to-back home games, and it would suck for them to start 0-2, but I actually feel like that's what might be happening. And again, it is a grand final rematch here, and the Swans are probably going to be pretty pissed, and they're going to want to come out and beat Brisbane, and now they have an extra game on them in preparation. I just got Brisbane coming out and winning this game. Again, initially I did have Sydney, I'm going to be honest here, but I think I'm changing it. Yeah, I think Brisbane are going to win against the Sydney Swans. Again, we've got the Dogs versus North now at Mars. This is a game that a lot of people are tipping to be really close, because some people believe the Dogs are going to fall and North are going to extremely rise. I do think the Dogs should still be good enough, though, to get the win here. I don't think it will be what the hell? I can't say that word, man. I need to go back to freaking primary school and learn how to speak. I do think the Dogs will get the win, but we'll have to definitely wait and see. I think this will be another test to see how much North are going to rise from last season. If they can get the win against a team that was a top 8 team last year, that would be a very, very interesting thing, and may have more people actually having them rise up on their AFL ladder. But I do believe that the Dogs will get the win here at Mars. Again, Collingwood versus Port at the MCG. It's going to be Dan Houston's first game for the Magpies. I do think it's going to be a very, very good match, but I think the Pies are going to come out with the win here, and I'm so excited to see Dan Houston go up against Port Adelaide, and I'm also excited to see how those players like Burgoyne and Kane Farrell are going to go without Houston there off that backline. Are they going to continue to improve and play good footy like they did towards the end of last year? And are they going to take that next level of both being like all-Australian contenders? Because I think both of those guys could be very, very good players and very good Dan Houston replacements. So, again, they could quickly rise to be some of Port Adelaide's best players. We know Burgoyne looks like he's going to, but I'm also interested to see how Dan Houston's going to go on the new team. Again, one of the best halfbacks in the league, if not the best halfback. So seeing him against his old team in round one, it's going to be good to watch. And I do think, though, the Pies will get the win. We've also got Adelaide versus St Kilda. At Adelaide, again, I'm not a disbeliever in the Saints like a lot of people are for some reason this year. I think they've actually got a really good underrated young core, and I liked certain parts of what I saw from them in the preseason. There's definitely a lot of building blocks for them. I do think, though, Adelaide, who a lot of people think could make the 8, will come out strong here, and they will beat the St Kilda Football Club at home. I still think it'll actually be a very good contest and a very good game with some players that I'm interested in looking forward to seeing play. Of course, I want to know who's going to debut for the Saints. Is Travali going to play? I think Taru may be injured, so he might not be playing, of course. I also want to see Sid Draper debut for Adelaide and see how he goes. So again, I really like that. We also got Melbourne versus GWS in Melbourne. Again, I never realized how many experts think that the GWS Giants are like going to win the flag and even make the grand final. I don't think it's crazy because they're a very good team. And I also do kind of believe some of the hype here. I do have them going to the MCG and beating Melbourne again. The Giants are, oddly enough, a really good MCG team, so I'm going to like to see how this does unfold. And I want to see where Melbourne sit this year. You know, how are they going to go a little bit forwards? Are they going to go a little bit backwards? Against a really solid team like the Giants will give us a little tell on what's, of course, going to happen. Again, we've also got the West Coast Eagles versus the Gold Coast Suns at Optus Stadium. Again, I think Gold Coast, who really struggled to win away from home last year, if they want to make the 8 this year, they've of course got to start winning away from home, and I think they will. They should beat West Coast, and they should do it convincingly, especially with how stacked this team is now. Again, going into the off-season and bringing in Rioli, Noble, Lombard, having an extra year on their incredibly good young list. You've arguably got the best coach in the AFL. You should win this game. And it's also interesting, this is the master going up against the apprentice now. You got Dimmer going up against McQualter, who none of them are with Richmond anymore, which, yeah, that's funny if you're not a Richmond fan. So I'm going to be interested to see how that goes. I also think West Coast are going to surprise people this year, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they didn't finish 17th or 16th and even finish a little bit higher. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see how they go against Gold Coast. But I think Gold Coast, if they want to be taken really seriously this year, they got to beat the Eagles here, and they got to do it quite well. So again, I'm very much interested to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this all down below. Do you guys think that these games, what do you guys think of like my predictions on them is what I'm trying to say? Do you guys like agree with them, or would you guys change them, and how would you do it? Again, I'd like to know down below. Subscribe to the channel for latest sports content and news, especially AFL content. My gaming channel, which will be linked down below as well. Again, go and do all that. It makes me feel very nice and warm inside. And yeah, leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.